Hello and welcome to our fourth installment of Students Speaking Up. My name is Andrew Soika. I'm a senior at Poolesville High School and co-founder of Students Speaking Up. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and the necessity of distance learning has taken a toll on our social and emotional well-being of the county student body. Students from across Montgomery County have demonstrated a desire to connect more deeply and directly with their peers and to receive meaningful mental health support. As a result, this program is being launched by students for students in collaboration with MCPS TV and the Montgomery County Office of Student Wellbeing and Achievement to address this pressing need and to create a platform for students across the county to express their voices on issues that impact them that they find relevant to the lives of young people today. We're here today to talk about mental wellness, what it means for our panelists, and how it's been affected by the pandemic. I'm joined today by Queen, our co-facilitator and co-founder of Students Speaking Up, Maura, senior at Poolesville High School, Fatima, junior at Churchill High School, and Isaiah, sophomore at Paint Branch High School. And Queen will start us off.
Thank you, Andrew, for that introduction. As he said, I'm Queen, a junior at Churchill, co-founder of Students Speaking Up, and intern for our Student Wellbeing and Achievement team. To start off with our first question, how would you define mental wellness? Why is it important to people, especially students, to have? Let's start with Fatima.
Thank you, Queen. I think mental wellness is a feeling of peace with who you are and your thoughts, even in times of distress, like we've seen in the past year. I think it's feeling like you have a purpose in this world and that you're continuously moving towards that purpose every day. It's definitely very, very important for students to have mental wellness because there's a high correspondence of mental health with happiness. And it's kind of really simple, like students perform better when they feel better. So I think it's an important issue that we need to.
Thank you, Fatima. Isaiah, what about you?
All right, so I would define mental wellness as how much people feed their minds with positive ideas that benefit their well-being. I think it's important for people, especially students, to have strong mental wellness because everybody has their own obstacles in their lifetime that they face. And so being able to maintain positivity and peace will allow them to endure that and, overcome those obstacles.
Thank you, Isaiah. And finally, Mara.
So for me, mental wellness, I think, is like just as important as physical wellness. And just like physical wellness, you have to consistently be striving to better yourself and take care of yourself. I think that it's really important for students because there's this culture of competitiveness within like the classroom when you're always striving for good grades and to participate in extracurriculars and hold leadership positions and set yourself apart from your peers. But that often comes at the expense of your mental wellness. And I think there's kind of this stigma against taking care of your mental health. It's really easy like you failed or that you're lazy when you like need to separate yourself and take a break. And I think it needs to be a little bit more normalized for students to take that time and prioritize their mental wellness before school. And just like I think somebody else said, like there's a strong correlation between having like a positive mental state and doing well in school. So those things go hand in hand. So they're like very much.
Thank you all. So our next question is, what are some ways that you yourselves have worked to promote mental wellness within your own communities? We can start with Maura first this time.
Okay, well, I think during the pandemic, my community has my immediate community has become my family because I'm around them all the time. And I think that as a kind of a larger family, we have 6 people in my family. We all have our own like obstacles and struggles. And I think that it's really easy to kind of get caught up in your own life, but it's really important, I think, for me to like pay attention to the people around me, in this case my family, and like see how they're doing. We like to encourage each other to go exercise together, go to the gym, go for walks, like have a family movie night to kind of like reset ourselves. And I think that just having that like awareness that we're all going through this pandemic, and like my siblings with online learning, like it's also been a struggle for them. And then kind of on a larger scale, my school community, it's been really tough being like socially separated for the past over a year. And I serve as one of our senior class officers. I'm class president. And it's been really difficult for us to find ways to bring us together. I think one of the biggest like negative impacts that the pandemic has had has been on like the social aspect of school. And we've run into a lot of obstacles with restrictions and safety guidelines. But every opportunity we have had to bring our class together, we've definitely tried to take it. And I think it's been a really positive experience, like in each scenario, for our class to gather and just be able to talk to people and kind of celebrate our achievements as seniors. So.
Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like, you know, just because of the pandemic and with isolation, that, you know, being able to get close to people in any way that makes it more difficult. And like, as that happens, mental wellness as a whole suffers because we're not around our friends. So it sounds like that's a challenge, but that, you know, that there have been some ways that you can kind of manage that, you know, I mean, through like, obviously like social distancing prom and stuff like that, and other kind of activities. But yeah, so thank you very much for your response. Next, how about Fatima?
Thank you. I think, like Mir said, our community has really become the family members that we have around us, and we need to do everything we can to understand each other. And I think one way we can do that is just to be very kind. There's a lot of times where either I have two younger sisters, so either I'm cranky or my two younger sisters are cranky, just because we're always inside the house and we're always with each other. So I think just being kind and understanding is one of the ways I've tried to help them through this time, and also help my parents kind of deal with us as well. I also think that being there for friends is very important. If they're struggling, if I see something that could help them, an activity, I would probably share it with them. Or if there's something we could do together, there's a lot of online games that have come out in the past year, and they've been super fun to play with friends. So I think that's also a way to connect.
Yeah, really this idea of like being there for other people to both help them with like their own mental wellness, but then also for you, that's something that both you and Mir said. So thank you. Finally, Isaiah.
So for me, me and my little sister, we actually made friendship bracelets for cancer patients to hopefully enlighten their day. And this was late last year, like towards the fall, the middle of the fall. And we plan on continuing that this summer. And besides that, I constantly volunteer at my community recreation center, which is like a block away from me. And this was before the pandemic, right, where I was actually able to be around people. So what I would do is help set up movie nights and distribute food like during certain events. And so I think that kind of helps to promote mental wellness because you're making people feel good, you know, and have a good time. So yeah, that's how I do that. That's how I promote it.
Thank you, Isaiah, for your reflection and connection between family and mental health. For our next question, how has online learning affected your ability to maintain mental wellness? And has it made things easier or harder for you as an individual? Let's start with Isaiah this time.
All right, so I'll just say if anything, online learning has affected my physical wellness because I haven't been outside and getting as much exercise as I want to. Um, and with that, I found myself to adopt more comfortable / lazy mindset, which was also more procrastinating more often than not. But throughout the year, online learning experience gave me more time to reflect upon myself. Sometimes it'll work best in my favor because I can give myself, just think upon my actions more and really come up with plans to, just make develop better habits. But in the beginning of the year, though, it was a little bit more difficult because I wasn't used to this new experience. And so I kind of put myself under a lot of stress and pressure to get work done and stay up like more than I should. So right now I'm in a better state of mind, and I think this online experience wasn't too bad.
Thank you, Isaiah. I'm sure many other students feel the same way. Mira?
I kind of had like a reverse experience. I think in the beginning, after I kind of like initially accepted that this was the reality for this school year, I really took advantage of like the freedom that it provided with my schedule. It felt good to sleep in an extra hour. I liked being in my pajamas for class. I participated in class a lot. I liked the flexibility of when I like wanted to do my work and I was able to like adjust it according to my work schedule or my schedule going to the gym. And so I had a really good routine going. But as time passed, I feel like I felt kind of just like the impact of just long-term lack of social interaction. I started to miss just like the small conversations that I would have like in the classroom with the person sitting next to me. And I think as a result, my overall energy and motivation really decreased. And I think second semester got a lot harder to be as active over Zoom and have the motivation to complete tasks independently for homework. And then that kind of like transferred over into like other areas of my life. Like I kind of lost the energy to do things that like used to make me really happy, like going to the gym. I feel like I just got really into this funk. And I think it was because I was so used to the repetitiveness of like online class. There just wasn't a lot of stimulation in general. There wasn't like social stimulation. There wasn't things to look forward to. I wasn't getting any of the things that usually make a senior year one of the best years of high school. I feel like it's improved as the weather has gotten better, like among other reasons, but I like have made a really big effort to like get outside when I can. I know Isaiah was saying how like being stuck inside has taken like a physical toll, and I think that's definitely true. I think like when your body is healthy, your mind is healthier. But I also agree with him that like there are definitely things that I will take away from this year and hopefully like apply to the future. Like I've learned a lot about myself, and all this time isolated has given me a lot of time to just think about like what I want to prioritize in life and how like I best function and how I learn and how I myself when there's not physical school building to walk into. So I think there's definitely like positive aspects that.
Thank you. Fatima, how does your experience compare to that?
I think it's a mix of both. I think in the beginning, it was definitely very hard for me because a lot of the extracurriculars and activities that I did outside of school were like activities that had to be in person and with a lot of other people. So those all got canceled for the first, like, I would say, year of quarantine. So that meant I had to find new activities and new things to do outside of school. And although I think we've all kind of adapted in our own ways and found our own ways of remaining sane during this time, it's still very difficult because online learning just does not have the same amount of support. Like, we're not in school for 5 days a week. And the social aspect, I think, contributed a lot to the learning aspect as well. Being in an environment where other students are learning around you and the teacher is like teaching in front of you, standing in front of you, makes you want to learn in a sense. But when we're at home behind a screen, you know, like my desk is here, my bed is right across from me, it's kind of a struggle. It's very difficult being also at home and overwhelmed by work that I have to do alone. So I think it's definitely been hard in that aspect. But in other aspects, like Mayor said, there's a lot of flexibility. And I like being able to do a lot more things for myself during this time without having to go to school for like more than half the day and then come back home. This way, I have a lot more time to myself. So I guess it's a two-way sword. It's great in one sense, but it's also very hard for students.
Thank you. And, you know, as we've been talking about kind of online learning, making it hard to really separate those boundaries between, you know, school and work, and they're kind of combining, and that just makes things a lot harder. What are some ways that you guys have been able to personally engage and able to maintain mental wellness, even with everything that's been going on? Fatima, we can start with you.
All right. I love to read books about like the human brain and just human behavior and psychology. I just find it really interesting, like how humans make habits and how they think and how society factors into that. So I've been doing a lot of reading. Not going to say that I follow my own advice, but I try to like sometimes FaceTime friends to do work together. That helps motivate me. Praying and meditation do wonders in the morning. I've also had a very drastic schedule change. I used to be like I think this is something not like everybody can relate to, but I used to be a very, very like strict night owl when we were in person school. But during online school, and especially recently, I found it just more, I found it better to wake up earlier in the mornings just because I have more time to do my work before school starts and then sleep a bit earlier. So, yeah.
Thank you. Isaiah, how about you?
For me, I made a schedule on how long I should be on the computer and what days/times I should play my PS4. I'm doing okay in following that schedule, but this method helps me reduce my procrastination a little bit and gives me a better peace of mind. I think that being able to constantly chat with my friends online as well, who I would normally hang out with or play with online, would help with mental wellness because I still do that socialization that, you know, I kind of want.
Yeah, talking with friends is definitely something that I think has helped a lot of people over this. Finally, Mayor.
So I actually have started kind of doing the same thing, making a huge effort to wake up early. I feel like as long as I go to bed at a reasonable time, when I get up early, I just have a much more productive day and I have more energy than, well, there's definitely been times where I wake up at like 8:59 right before class, but usually those are the days where I'm like asleep at my computer and I just want to get back in my bed. So I try to make an effort to wake up early enough that where I can like go for a walk, have a full breakfast, and kind of like set the tone for the rest of the day. I also really like to go to the gym. Obviously the gym wasn't open for all of quarantine. So in that case, I would go to the track. I'd run bleachers or just do something to like get outside. I feel like just being outside and like being under the sun just makes me feel a lot more energized. I think there's something scientific about your circadian rhythm or whatever. I don't really know the details, but I definitely make an effort to do that. And then if it's like a particularly rough day, or if I'm like encountering some sort of like challenge, I definitely try to reach out to my friends. I have a few friends that live in town, so sometimes like I'll try to see them in person. We'll just like go for a drive, and just like being able to have like those small like interactions can really just like change your mental like direction. And I feel like getting like a new perspective, just vocalizing my thoughts really helps me like process things, and usually lets me kind of like set a plan on like how I'm gonna like turn things around, or like just start a better habit, and just like take care of myself. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that reflection. Once again, I'm sure countless students can relate to your experiences. While we transition away from how you personally engage in practices, we want you to answer, how could county leaders and other community stakeholders better help promote mental wellness? What are some things you've seen that worked, and what are some things you've seen that have not worked? For this one, we'll start with Fatima.
Thank you. This is like a very general thing that can be applied in many different aspects, but they could limit the amount of stress and the workload schools put onto students during this time. I think that the community as a whole needs to realize there's not as much support as there was when we had in-person school, and that translates into it becomes a lot harder for students to maintain the same amount of work. I think some things that have worked, mindful minutes at the beginning of my AP Lang classes have been amazing. Nearpods, I don't know if everybody would agree with me on this, but I personally don't think they were very helpful. I think county leaders have to do more to actually promote mental wellness by providing support and resources, rather than just teaching students about mental wellness. Like, we all know that this is a very hard time and that we're all suffering. What can our county leaders and our teachers and the people in our community do about that, rather than just like reiterating the same point over and over?
Thank you, Fatima. I'm sure a lot of students have found aspects of this virtual learning helpful, and some aspects not quite as beneficial to their individual needs. Isaiah, what about you?
So I think that community leaders and county leaders should provide a space, in high schools or like at community rec centers where people can get a chance to relax. They can provide activities to help them relax, right? And, they can also have comfortable furniture where they could sit and just talk with each other, to help them ease their mind from, I guess, the stress of their everyday life. What I've seen that worked is something at my school called the Zen Den, which is basically what I just described. So it's a room where students can go to during lunch and after school, and they have different activities that they can engage in to, just relax and get a peace of mind. I think they have it on Zoom as well, but it's not as effective. But you have like a room, and it has icons that you can click on, and then you could either listen to music, like calm instrumental music or something like that, or watch funny cat videos or something.
And finally, to end us off, Mara, what about you?
So I think this is a really complicated thing. And I think in my mind, I see kind of like a long-term way that mental wellness can be promoted is education, specifically at a younger age. Because I think if we not only make students aware of what mental wellness is, but make them comfortable like practicing it on a daily basis, I think that we're like being proactive by establishing those coping skills before they encounter a lot of obstacles that like exacerbate mental health, like later on down the road, like high school. Middle school is also kind of a tough years for everyone. I think that more like immediately, something Fatima said like in the beginning about just extending grace to everyone, like understanding that everyone is going through this struggle. I think that it sounds really simple, but I think like in practice, I think that it really makes a big difference when your teachers understand that like you might not be operating at your like full potential right now. Like things might take a little bit longer. It might not be your best quality work. It might take a little bit more effort to stay engaged. So I think just everyone, students, but also teachers, being aware that mental wellness should be a priority during this time. And sometimes that it has to be prioritized over getting an assignment in on time. I also think just listening to students and just getting like their direct opinions. I think, at least in my opinion, I've had a lot of experiences with like different wellness days at school, like kind of like a random day that they say is wellness day and then they hand out bracelets or something. And it just seems kind of like a hollow gesture. Like, what is it actually doing for students? So I think if they really like take the advice of like what we need to feel supported, that would go a long way. But I also feel that it's really hard to target everyone because everybody has different ways that they promote their own mental wellness. So I think it's just kind of creating an understanding between students and the school system that people take care of their mental wellness in different ways and giving them like the freedom to do that however they choose.
Thank you for that. Prioritizing student voice and adaptability is a central tenet of this program. So once again, thank you for that reflection. As our speakers unfortunately leave, and as we end this installment of Students Speaking Up, we'd like to leave you with one relevant quote. What is stronger than the human heart which shatters over and over and still lives? Our panelists today have reflected on their mental health in relation to the pandemic. This year has been a period of pain, growth, and resilience for many students across the county, regardless of their zip code or school. And many of these students can all relate to the same issues. The aim of Students Speaking Up is to highlight the experiences of these MCPS students and how these issues within our counties affect their lives. The students of MCPS are still alive and thriving after the year of challenges they faced. Anyone interested in being a panelist or submitting testimony about your personal experiences can go to tinyurl.com/studentspeakingup, all lowercase, to become involved with the program and help us elevate discussions about mental health and wellness to a county level. So thank you and continue speaking up and staying well.